the fanciest thing that I had was a leapfrog. Yep. And the little Yahtzee thing. Oh my God. I was like, this leapfrog that I have in my car seat, this is the future. Today, I'm going to let you guys into how my mind works, and I need to explain myself. But before I do that, I want to say, you guys, we're recording video. I'm going to let you guys know which episodes are video and audio, but it's up and we're doing video and audio. I'm trying to do it more. It's going to be exciting. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for joining me in on this journey. And it's exciting. I'm pushing myself. I'm like so uncomfortable. Even though I talk to my phone all the time, talking to just like a straight on camera direct, I'm just like, you're a little scary girl. Okay, but anyways, that's besides the point. If you want to watch this episode, you can watch it. If you just like audio and prefer that, then hang out with me here. Okay, last night, there's going to be some things that we talk about, just some discourse that I've been seeing, and also just the way that my mind was working last night is what inspired today's episode. So we're going to chat about like a few different things here. Okay, so picture this. I'm an Aquarius. I'm a chronic overthinker. I'm a deep thinker. My mind is going a million miles a minute. Last night, I gardened. Okay, gardening mocktail. I was feeling myself a little bit. It was a good time. My sister and I were watching a new show on Netflix. I think it's new. It's called Selling the City or Selling in the City. I don't know. It's just another New York City real estate Netflix show, which honestly, give me more. We need more. We want more. That's what we want. Like, I want to be touring $65 million penthouses in New York City. Like, who doesn't want that? Okay, it's my favorite kind of stuff. I love to watch that show. So we were watching it. We're a few episodes in, and this one girl was talking about how she's been married or with a guy for 10 years and how only 4 of those years she's really been happy in, her marriage, and how she's changed a lot. And she feels like she's changed more, so much that like her and her partner aren't quite on the same page anymore. And there was a clip of them in one episode. I haven't finished the season yet, though, so I don't know how it's going to pan out. I think this was like episode 2 or 3. And there was a clip of them at a bar. They meet at a bar, her and her husband. And this, mind you, this is a 4-minute clip. So I'm not like trying to make judgments based off of their relationship here. They've been together for over a decade. Okay. So we cannot just assume that this is how they roll. But from the clip and how it was edited, you could tell it was just kind of like a little awkward, little bit of tension, but also you could tell that guy is not used to being in front of a camera. You have to realize too that this is like, if you're not used to filming reality TV, which who is, I'm not, okay? There's giant cameras and a whole Netflix crew that's there. So I'm sure for them to like go out to a bar in public and have, other people kind of looking at them, I'm sure he was a little bit uncomfortable with that. And it wasn't necessarily projected at her. You know what I mean? Anyways, just to set the scene, it was a little awkward, a little bit of tension there. And it was just kind of a strange-ish interaction with the way that it was cut. And they started chatting and she's like, oh, let's get a drink, whatever. And then they're talking. She's like, oh, how was your day? Or something like that. And her phone rings. And he immediately kind of like rolls his eyes. Again, this is edited a certain way. So they always can take things like out of context and place things here, there, whatever. She takes a phone call. She's talking about real estate. She's talking about closing the deal, this, that, the other. And he's just kind of sitting there, and then she hangs up. She's like, what? Can I not take a call? And he's like, no, I was just like sitting here. And then my sister and I stopped watching after that, whatever, we go to bed. So I kind of was thinking, my mind's going, and I want to talk about this. I want to let you guys in on my brain. Okay. And this is what is sparking this topic that I want to cover. One of the many that we will today. Talking about change in relationships. And this could be also in friendships as well. But I want to gear a little bit more towards romantic relationships because Nash and I just celebrated 6 years, which is a long time. I mean, we're only 20. I'm turning 26 soon. Okay. But we met when we were 19. I was basically almost 20. Back in the day, back in 2018, which I feel like 2018 was only like 2 years ago. I don't know about you guys, but 2018 seems like, yeah, it was just like 2 or 3 years ago. No, it was, I won't even say it's longer than that, obviously. But we've been dating for a while. And it really made me think in that moment when she was talking about like, I've changed so much. And they showed flashback pictures of her and her man and whatever. And she looks very different. I mean, of course, a decade you're going to look a lot different and you're going to be a lot different in a decade. And even in like a year, like I look back at myself a year ago and I'm a different person. And not only that, but like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm a completely different person now than I was back then, which also same to you. You are the same way, same with your partner, same with your parents. Like we're always growing and evolving and changing. And if you are not changing with your partner and growing alongside and continuing to date your partner, things are really going to get misconstrued. Of course, there's so many essential pillars and foundational blocks that you have to build with relationship: communication, trust, honesty, respect, yada yada. Like that, obviously, I'm sure there's a million podcast episodes and books out there that say that, of course, and we can always dive into that. But if you're not willing to grow and change and continue to learn with your partner and allow them the freedom to continue to grow and change, and vice versa, they have to allow you the freedom to continue to grow and change, and you guys continue to get to know each other, then it's just going to be a complete mess, right? And I feel like Nash and I have done a really good job of continuing to get to know each other and checking in with one another. And I'm going to bring this up. I've already brought this up before on this podcast, but I pretty sure that I created this. I could be wrong, but I swear I didn't read this anywhere. I feel like I created this when Nash and I were talking one time and he was about to move to Reno. He was living in the Bay Area. This was like a year and a half into us dating. I had dropped out of Oregon, transferred to UNR, University of Nevada, Reno. So I was living there. And then he was like, I think I'm going to move there. I said, let's do it. So my first time like living near a man like that, but away from our family, right? So we were chatting and I remember talking to him and I'm like, no, I'm excited for you to come up, but we have to continue to like grow and be our own individuals, because I don't want to like spend 24/7 with you. We need to make sure that we're doing our own thing. So I came up with this 3-path analogy where you have your own path, your partner has their own path, and you guys have a shared path together. On your own individual paths, you and your partner have to make sure that you're continuing to water your own grass. You're doing things for yourself and by yourself or with your own friends, and they're doing things with their own friends and finding solo hobbies that they enjoy outside of your relationship. You have to continue to water your own grass in a relationship and continue to grow, but you also have to make sure that you are holding your partner accountable and making sure that they're also doing the same. We have to continue to be evolving as individuals and as human beings. And also in that same moment, you have to be continuing to water the grass in your shared path, right? You have to continue to do things together, and that you guys it's only just you two and it's things that you do together, but also continuing to do things individually. I feel like it's a lot easier to do things together than it is to continue to pour into your own glass and to continue to fill yourself up with your wants, your needs outside of your relationship. And it made me really sad because you could tell that the girl in the show was like really heartbroken because obviously she loves her person. That's her person. They've been together for a really long time. They've been married for a long time. And it's hard when you outgrow relationships and especially friendships. It's really hard to outgrow friendships. And that's something that really happens a lot in your 20s. My God. And it's going to happen our whole lives, I'm sure. But especially when you go from high school to college, if you do go to college and you don't start working right away, you kind of start to begin to outgrow friendships during college. There's distance there with, lifelong friends that you've maybe like been together since, pre-K, you went through high school together and now you start to separate and you kind of outgrow friendships there. But when you go into college and you start to create new friendships there and then you graduate college, wow, that is a lot. I think that people's true colors really begin to show once you graduate college and you're in the real world. Who continues to show up for you, reach out to you, support you, plan visits, and just to communicate with you and check in with you. And there's a lot of friendship breakups or distance that goes on in your 20s, and I know like our whole life, but it's because like so much fucking happens in our early to mid 20s, especially when you graduate college and you're thrown into the real world and you're just like, okay, like good luck, they hand you your diploma and my God, what a slap in the face the real world is. Like I feel like, I'm 25, I graduated almost 26 basically. I graduated college in 2021, which I thought was like only like a year ago. Okay, no, very fun. But I am looking back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I only feel like I'm just kind of catching my footing. In the past year, I've kind of feel like I'm adjusting to this whole like real world thing that we're doing. And I still feel like a fetus, in this like real world scenario where we're dealing with some real adult shit. And anyways, but with friendships, so much happens individually. I feel like over the past couple years, I've really solidified my beliefs and my opinions on a lot of different things and a lot of different topics, which I've done by myself and also have had discussions with Nash where he's developing his own opinions and thoughts and beliefs, which have changed. Like there are certain things that I believed to be true a couple years ago that I'm kind of like, you know what? Now that have a little bit more life experience, now that I just kind of, am maturing a little bit more, I'm not sure if I believe in that as much or my beliefs have changed. And that's called growth. Like, I just feel like, especially with social media, like people are going to grow. And now we're at a point where, of course, we have like the YouTuber era, like people have been influencing, or at least there have been content creators for decades, but with specific to TikTok, it's new. Influencing is new. And I think that for some reason, people or consumers and viewers have issues with people changing on social media. Like, you guys, if you look, oh my God, I can't even stalk myself to a couple years ago when I started this in college. I mean, I'm so different from back then to now, the way that I eat and how I dress and how I look and my training program and my beliefs and my relationships. Like, everything is different. But like, duh. I feel like some people don't allow others to grow, or they, especially when it comes to social media. This is like a whole different tangent. I know we're talking about like a million different things here, but I think some people have issues with creators because now on TikTok, you've probably followed some creators for a couple years now, where they used to be new to you and it was like fun, fresh, and whatever. But now you've been following them for a couple years and they're growing in a certain direction, and you're also growing in a different direction in your life, and you're the parasocial relationships, where you don't really know them, but you know a lot about them, but you've never met them before, which is always just, that's such a strange phenomenon. I feel like I mentioned this in the last podcast episode, but parasocial relationships are getting a little bit out of hand. They're getting a little bit weird, and not in sometimes a bad way, but also, it can just be like, maybe you just feel really connected to someone. That's what social media is for. That's why, like, social media was created years and years ago when Facebook was like really the only thing. It was only to what? Connect with family, right? And now it's turned into something like really different, where we're feeling connected to people online, which is what it's for. If you can find somebody that makes you feel safe and heard and seen and comforted and loved and appreciated through a screen, which is kind of weird to say, then that's a good thing, use them as inspiration. But I think that some people are now really struggling with people being like, oh, you're used to do this and you're not the same, or you used to, and I'm seeing it on other people's like platforms too. And it's just like, oh, I can't, I followed this unfollowed them because they just have changed so much and this, that, the other, and they become unrelatable. Like, oh, not everybody's going to be relatable to you, and that's just fact of life. And just because somebody showcases their life, if they become unrelatable to you, you have the ability to unfollow them. Like, it's totally okay to do that. But that's kind of like a different tangent there. But when it comes to change and shifting, this is not only with like your romantic relationships, but with friendships, and also like with people online that you follow, because it is, getting different there. It's really important to continue to like always water your own grass, whether you're in a friendship that is changing and growing apart, which can be really hard when you're distancing yourself from a friend. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. It's sad. It's like you maybe have so many things that you want to say, but you're kind of feeling hurt by maybe the lack of effort, or really honestly, it's the lack of effort there when it comes to friendships. And it's kind of like, is it worth sitting down with them? That you guys maybe aren't on the same page anymore. It's just like so many, it's very layered. But it can really hurt because it's kind of like a long, dragged out process that can happen. And sometimes you just grow in a different direction, and that's what living life is. That's what being a human being is. That's why, like, we are a society of humans who can do this whole thing, because there are differences of opinions and there are people growing apart and closer and whatever and this, that, the other. But that was one thing that I wanted to talk about, was growing within your romantic relationship. You've got to continue to grow. You have to continue watering your own grass. You have to make sure that your partner is also doing the same, because at the end of the day, you're just a girl and they're just a boy, or they're just a girl. And it's like, you have to just continue to be your own individual while also growing within your guys' relationship. it's so easy to like spend 24/7 with your partner, but making sure that you're going on girls' nights out, taking yourself on a solo date, which can be really difficult to do, taking yourself to the nail salon or on a Barnes and Noble date or to go shop around alone or with a friend or whatever, things that are outside of your partner is so important to keep doing. And if you guys, and knowing that with the three path analogy, this is what a relationship is and this is where communication comes in. Maybe you're really watering your own grass and your partner isn't as much, or maybe they don't have the time to do it. And if they're not and you are, sometimes it can become a little bit uneven. Maybe you guys are continuing to like work on your guys' relationship and your shared path is doing great, but maybe they're struggling. So then communicate with them, be there for them, etc. Vice versa. Maybe you guys are doing too much individually and not enough together. Maybe you guys are only doing stuff together and not enough individually. Like that's where communication comes into play, but understanding that life life happens. You aren't going to always be able to do things for yourself individually. They're not always going to be able to do things for themselves individually. And you guys aren't always going to be able to do things with each other all the time, 24/7, and have like a perfect three path, like evenness here where you guys are just walking along and everything's going great. I think there's periods of time where that's going to happen, but there's also periods of time where it's going to be uneven. And I just feel like that's just life. And with friendships too, there's periods of time with my closest friends who are all long distance where we won't talk for a little bit of time. And then I'm like, oh my God, I feel like it's only been like a week, but it's been like a month or two. And I need to reach out to them and then we'll have a catch up and everything will be good. And same thing with them. Maybe you're reaching out and they're not giving anything back to you and just communicating through that. But I just find that really interesting and it makes me sad. And I hope that people who are in a relationship really build those foundational, pillars, and also really, really from the start, make sure that you're creating individuality in your relationships. And that goes for friendships too. Cause there's been some friends that I've had where like we're attached at the hip and it's almost like we are basically dating. And it's like, okay, we should probably like, there's other people out in the world, like love you, but also we need space from each other, whatever. So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, which I thought was interesting. The next thing, you guys, okay, again, this is from the show. One of the guys said something that really stuck out to me. This is me. I'm just like freaking holding my gardening mocktail. I'm like, levitating on the couch. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like I'm having all these epiphanies in my head when now that I'm sober and I'm like talking to you guys, I'm like, is this, is this even important? I'm like, does this even matter? Is this as like sound as cool as we think it is? So he said, I don't even know the context of it, but he said a quote. He said, the best way to learn fast is to fail. The best way to learn fast is to fail. And I was like, ooh, I like that. Of course. I mean, when you fail, you're going to learn. Like, that's why failing is okay. We are going to fail in life. Nobody's going to be perfect. You're going to fuck up. You're going to fail. You're going to try and fail. You're going to try and succeed. And then you're going to try and succeed and things are going well. And then all of a sudden it fails. And then you get stuck on the fact where you're like, wait, that was working for so long. I'm so confused. And then you glom onto that. But it's like, guess what? Things change. We grow as people. Other things are growing. Like, I don't know what it is. I think I'm just feeling this like sense of people are having trouble allowing others to grow, allowing themselves to grow. Like you're allowed to grow. You're allowed to believe certain things as long as they're like, okay, but you're allowed to believe in certain things and ideals and concepts and whatever. And you're allowed to grow and to get life experience and you're allowed to change your opinions and your beliefs. Like you're allowed to do that. And I don't know why I feel like some people either don't allow others, whether it's on the internet, their partners, whatever, or they don't allow themselves the opportunity to be able to explore new concepts and things. Like nothing's better than talking to somebody else who has a completely different opinion. I mean, that's the best thing that we can do as human beings. And also just for ourselves to educate ourselves and enlighten ourselves and humble ourselves and be like, oh, actually, yeah, that makes sense. Like there's been so many times where I'm like really set in stone with some beliefs. And then I talk to people who believe other things. And I'm like, that totally makes sense. But also based off of your own lived experiences, you're going to have differences of opinions, right? Human beings. Hello. But I think that we want to achieve so much so quickly. Tell me why, like, us as 20-year-olds feel like we have to have it together. You guys, like, we do not have to have, well, it's not that we shouldn't have it together. There's, I'm sure, plenty of people in their 20s that have a lot of things together, but nobody has anything that's perfectly together. And the best way to like learn fast is to fail. Like, when you fail, you are going to learn. And I have a tattoo on my arm. It's right here. I'll show it to you guys if you're watching, but it's on my forearm. It says, "It's happening for you." I got it when I was 19, I think, like between my freshman and sophomore year of college. I got it. It was kind of like spur of the moment, but it's happening for you. It's based from a tarot card that I was read that I had picked out, and it's the ever unfolding rose. And it says, it's happening for you, not to you. So instead of sitting here and being like, why is this happening to me? Ugh, like, poor me, poor me, poor me. You sit there and you'd be like, damn, this sucks. But you know what? It's happening for me. It's happening for me. Whatever higher power you believe in, whether it's Mother Nature, the universe, God, whoever, you're like, no, it's out of my hands at this point. It's happening for me, not to me, for me. There is always, always a learning lesson and an opportunity out of everything, out of failed relationships, out of failed business ventures, out of failed careers, out of failed classes. I mean, the list could go on. We are going to fail. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to grow. And I think that it's just like this strive for perfection, which links back into social media and seeing people who, maybe portray that they have a very cookie cutter, perfect, clean, aesthetic lifestyle, which can be very inspirational for a lot of people, but also kind of subconsciously a little bit detrimental because people, I think, are scared to fail and scared to grow because they see other people online maybe succeeding or maybe growing or not growing or not succeeding. I'm not really sure. I just think that like we need to just take a step back and get back into reality and be like, you know what? It's okay to fail. You can have a pity party. I love a good pity party. Okay. I love a good little mentee bee. Allow yourself to be angry, to be sad, to be frustrated, to be disappointed. Have that little pity party, cry it out, scream it out into a pillow or in your car or whatever it is. Go to the gym, however you want to cope with that. And then be like, you know what? Okay, there's a lesson that's going to be learned, whether you know it in that moment or you're going to learn it soon, or there's an opportunity that's going to arise, or it's a learning lesson that turns into an opportunity. Like, why not fail? Why not try and fail? Why not? You're going to learn from it. It's only going to be beneficial. Even if you do fail, you're going to learn from it. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. I mean, like, the most successful billionaires, entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners, they failed a million times before they succeeded. Okay. I know that with Amazon, Mr. Jeff, I don't even really know. I don't know him that well. Hold on, let me call him up. No, I'm kidding. But I remember like reading something how everyone made fun of him for Amazon, the idea, the concept, and it failed for a very long time, for years and years and years, and nobody bought into it. And then obviously, I mean, need I say more about Amazon now? Okay, so you've got to fail. That's just one example. I don't even know if it's a good example, but you've got to fail in order to succeed. And the best way to learn fast is to fail. And it's okay. Try it out. You want to try out content creation, you want to try out influencing, fucking do it. Try it. Try it. Guess what? There's going to be so many videos that you post that are going to flop. And you put in so much effort and so much time and you really worked hard on it and you're like so excited to post it and you think it's a great piece of content, and it is a great piece of content, and it flops. That's the name of the game, baby. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not succeeding and you're not going to be good at it. You have got to continue showing up for yourself, and you have to continue putting in the work and putting in the effort if that's what you want to do, which I think a lot of people do. And it's okay. It's also okay to sit down and be like, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a content creator. I want to do this with my life. I think that I can. I love filming. I love editing. I love sharing my life. And I want to do this. Don't do this because you feel like you have to. Do it because you want to. I believe in you. Why not? My favorite creators are smaller creators right now. Like, Seriously, I love nothing more than watching smaller creators. Like, small creators where it's fucking at. You guys are the best. Like, keep posting, keep showing up, and do it for your silent followers. I always tell anybody starting out, like, you have so many silent followers, people who unfortunately will never like, comment, share, save, or whatever, but they maybe follow you and they love to see your content, which is like, another thing that's interesting. It's like, why not like and comment? Why not? But it's okay. Like, you don't have to on everything. Sometimes you can just watch people and you can follow them and you can enjoy their content or whatever, but do it for the silent followers because you have more out there than you think. So that's my next little spiel. Like, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to grow. If you're changing in your relationships, in your career, in whatever it may be, like, guess what? That's life. Of course, like, I'm not going to be the same person now as I am in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. Of course I'm not. Of course I'm not. Like, don't be scared or be afraid. Don't be scared. That's what I almost said, to grow and to fail. Like that, like, failing is fun. Failing is fun. No, I'm kidding. It's not fun, but you just have a little bit more of an optimistic mindset. Okay, the last thing, you guys, that I want to talk about, it's a little bit, let me just get into it. So this is what I was thinking deep in thought. Here I am waiting for Nash to come home from work, and I'm sitting in my bed, my head is spinning, okay? And I see, what was it? I saw a video that somebody posted on the internet that made me think about this, okay? So, how do I put this? I'm not a mom. I don't have a kid. Well, I'm a mother to sweet Gemma Lou. I'm a fur baby mom, but I don't have a kid, so I don't really have a say in this. And I am neither here nor there when it comes to posting your kids online. I think obviously many lessons have been learned about certain instances of, child exploitation. It's definitely a hot topic right now, but I was thinking about what it would feel like if you're a kid to a really big mommy influencer, and what that's going to be like for them in the next like 10 to 15 years or when they get older. Because if I sit here and I think of my mom being an influencer, I can't even sit here and think about Sue being an influencer. I mean, like, it's not even something I think about longer than 10 seconds without giggling. Okay. But if I think about what that would have been like, I don't know. How are these kids going to feel? Even if their parents are doing it the right way, even if their parents don't even, like, this is what I think about, like, when I have kids. I post things on the internet, and I'm obviously very open about what I post. I've shared a lot of like personal, intimate details of my, female journey of being a woman. Okay. No shame in that. I'm happy to do it. But then I think about, I'm like, God, what if my kids grow up, and they see this and they dig back to 2024 or 2022 when I was talking about having, recurring BV and a smelly downstairs and constant UTIs and no sex drive and whatever. I'm happy to do it. It's a conversation. If I have daughters, we'll be talking all about that stuff. Not necessarily personal to like me and their father, but just in general. But I'm like, what if they see that kind of stuff? I've got no problem with them seeing it, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. I'm like, God, what if when my kids, are they going to stalk me? Are they going to see, like, they're going to scroll back down to 2022 and see like everything that I posted? And then it's weird because then I also think about the only images that I have of my mother and my parents when they were younger are, Polaroids or just physical pictures. The first time I saw a video of my mother was maybe like 10 years ago, and I was floored. Like, it was so crazy to see my mom back in the day, back in like the 80s, in her prime, like her hairstyle, the way that she talked. I'm like, oh my God, she looks just like me. She looks just like my sister. She's like the way, like her mannerisms. I'm like, oh my God, that's my sister. Like, it was a strange thing to see my mom in like video form back in the day. And then I'm like, oh my God, our kids are going to be able to like see everything. Like, I have videos from when Nash and I were first dating, and I get to show them those videos, and they're like, going to be decent quality videos. It's a weird thing to think about how we didn't get to experience that with our parents, but flipping generations, we're moving forward, how we are going to, like, kids are going to grow up being able to see a lot about their parents. And that's interesting. I'm not saying it's like good or bad, but it's really interesting when these kids are going to grow up being able to see so much content of their parents. And even if you don't post online and you're not looking, you don't have to be a mommy influencer, but even just like taking all these videos at home and you get to show them, like, that's a weird thing to think about. But, we've got the generation of iPad kids, which I think that this new generation coming in is so surrounded by social media, where even like me growing up, the fanciest thing that I had was a leapfrog. Yep. And the little Yahtzee thing. Oh my God. I was like, this is the future. This leapfrog that I have in my car seat, like while I'm sitting there, my like old little chunky self, I'm like, this is the future. Like, future, no, this is it. The future is here. I've got a leapfrog in my hand. This is it. And then Webkins and Club Penguin. Oh, don't even get me started. I was like, what kind of universe are we living in? My parents could never get this. But now, my God, how fast we have teleported into the future. And it's like we live in such a hyper social society that I'm like, these kids, now that I'm thinking about it, probably won't really, I don't know, are they going to be affected that much when they grow up? When they see their parents on record, because they're so used to maybe having a camera in their face, or they're used to seeing videos of themselves, right? Like, weird. I never grew up like seeing videos of myself when I was like younger, but I'm sure moms now are like taking videos and maybe their kids are, their kids are coherent enough to be able to be like, look at this as a video of you, or like, look at what we just filmed. And these kids, how is that going to affect the kids in a positive and negative way? I'm not saying this as a bad thing. I'm just talking about it just like, this is my mind when I'm gardened. Okay. And I just find it really interesting. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Here's my theory though with iPad kids. Okay. Okay. Here's my theory. I've explained it a lot. I don't even know if I've brought it to the podcast before. This is my theory with iPad kids. The generation of iPad kids, and if you think about the ages of their parents, which I would say are, mid 30s to mid 40s, kind of, I think we're going to cycle out of having iPad kids, because the age that I was at when social media hit hard was middle school. The age that my sister was at when social media hit hard was high school. So into high school too, like, I remember having Vine and posting on that, and it was so fun. God, back in the day, look at us grandmas now. Bring Vine back. I miss it. But social media was becoming so rampant. And I was talking to my dad about this, and he was like, yeah, back in my day, you know, in high school or something, if a party happened over the weekend and like I didn't know about it, or something went down, or some people hung out, I didn't know about it until, Monday at school when people were talking about it. Or and he just sat there. He's like, oh, damn, like, next time let me know, or, give me a call or whatever. But they had to like call from a landline or walk up to somebody's house and like knock on the door and be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Which is like, crazy concept. We should not be knocking on people's doors. It's 2025. Thank God for Ring cameras. But I was talking to my dad. I'm like, yeah, but with our generation, which is a crazy concept, but he's like, but by that time on Monday, he's like, I didn't care. If it happened Friday night and some people hung out and like, I, maybe wish that I was there. It's already Monday. It's already over. So when I was told about it, I was like, okay, damn, like, let me know next time. And they're like, okay, yeah, no, definitely. Like, I'll give you a call, or expect a call at this time, cause you got to be home for it, which is so interesting. Cause he's like, yeah, by that time, it doesn't really matter. Like, then I'm like, okay, time to head to class. It does. But also he's a dude. So like, boy, is so simple minded, but with us, if there was a time in high school, that people were hanging out, you would see it on Snapchat. This was before Instagram stories. You would see it on Snapchat, and it would just like be so devastating. And it's like that kind of effect, oof, that kind of stuff, people hanging out, being left out, seeing girls post, maybe vacations, or starting to post their bodies at a time that we're becoming really aware of our bodies as women and trying to get comfortable with ourselves. I mean, our bodies really change a lot in high school. Hormones are like, pumping through our systems, and a lot is changing. And also high school is like a big jump from middle school to high school. And that really affected us. Social media for my generation, and our generation, I should say, really affected us. And I'm not saying it doesn't affect older generations as well, but it was such, I mean, the when social media came into play, it was at such pivotal moments in our adolescent youth. It wasn't like we were in college where, like, our frontal lobe maybe started to develop. We were a little bit more mature. We were young kids. We were youth when, like, we started to become aware of our bodies and starting to compare and starting to see other people do other things, because and we would see it immediately in the moment. And I remember my mom, when my first boyfriend broke up with me in a Panera parking lot. I remember my mom, over time, a couple weeks went by, and she's like, why can't you just like get over it? She's like, I know this is for your first love. Like, she's a great mom, but she's like, so like, just like, I'm like, I cannot get over it, mom, because I follow all of his friends on social media. I follow and I see where he's at all the time. I maybe don't follow, like, you can unfollow your ex, but maybe you're friends with all their friends and you see everything in the moment. So you're sitting at home and all of a sudden you see where they're at and you can't help but think, like, oh my God, like, and it's like stuff like that. My mom, they didn't, when they broke up over landline or in person, they would just not fucking talk. It would literally be, oh God, what a dream come true that would be. You just wouldn't talk. So, and you wouldn't see where they're at all hours of the day. So I was telling my mom, I was like, I'm trying to explain to you that this is the life that I live. You live that life, you could get over it. I like that he, came to your front door and maybe you guys broke up or you broke up over the phone, and you literally wouldn't see him unless if you saw him out, you walked your ass to his storefront or you called him and luckily he was home at the time, or you left a message. It's so, so different. How much has changed. And it's like so much is the same, but so much is very different. And with the back to the iPad kids, you guys. Oh my God. Hello, tangent. I swear I'm sober right now. Back to the iPad kids. The people who have kids, that when social media came out, it's still, I'm not saying it didn't affect them, 35 to 45-year-olds, but they were maybe in college or graduated from college when social media really came out. And I think it affected them in a different way, but they were like already starting their lives in the real world. Whereas like we were youths, we were young. Okay. So we are affected by social media in a very different way, negatively. There's a lot of positives with social media, but my God, there are so many negatives with social media. And I'm interested to see what the brain scans are going to look like in the next couple of years with like how it's affecting our brains and development and things like that. But I don't know if the generation when social media really became rampant, when they were in college or in the real world, if they felt the effects to the degree that we did. Because I feel like for my kids, like no social media, no phones for a good amount of time. Okay. Right now it could change. Who knows? Okay. But for right now, my feeling with like going through social media and being somebody who posts on social media, I'm like, no, no, nope. We're going outside. We're doing stimulating activities with your hands, arts and crafts. Like, I think that my generation is going to bring back, we're going to X out of the iPad kids. I think it could be very helpful. There will be times where like kids will have tablets and iPads and watch TV and whatever. But I think that my generation is going to bring a new wave back. And what we're going to do is we're going to X-nay the iPad kids, because I'm raising my kids the same way that I was raised. And my parents were raised old fucking school. Like my mom's Polish woman from Long Island, New York. Okay? If you can imagine that. My dad's the sweetest guy. Love him. But my mom, like the way that my mom raised me is old school to the max. Okay. As soon as we were able to talk, she was speaking to me like I was an adult. As soon as we were able to talk, I was ordering my own food at the dinner table. Like when we would go out at restaurants, literally as soon as I could speak, I was ordering. So it's stuff like that. There's a lot of things that I'm going to like implement with my kids that I was raised on, because I'm like, I know the effects of social media and how it's made me feel. And I don't want them to feel that way. And I think that like we're gonna X-nay out, like, what goes around comes around. It's like a constant cyclical thing where we're like in a cycle of new beliefs, old beliefs, right? And I think we're gonna cycle back into old school, raising our kids the way that we were raised. And I think that the not older, but like the generation above me would be, because I don't know, I was born in 99. So my like millennial or Gen Z or whatever the fuck, I don't know. But the generation above me and the one above that, I think that they didn't feel the impact the same way that we did. I'm not saying it wasn't impactful. to them, of course it was. It impacts everybody. Like I even know moms that are like, in their 50s and 60s and get on social media and they feel like, they're not doing enough or comparing or whatever. But I think that they didn't feel the impact that we feel. And they were like, yeah, let's give them an iPad. Let's give them this. Yes, they can have social media early. Like it's okay, because they didn't feel that impact. They were kind of far removed from it. And we had such a major impact with social media at such a pivotal moment when we're trying to like figure out who we are, and we're going to be figuring out who we are our whole lives. But when we become aware of ourselves and our bodies as women, especially, it really is super impactful. Really, really is. So I think that that's kind of interesting. You guys, I'm so sorry. I feel like this was so chaotic and all over the place. But I hope that you enjoyed these conversations because this is, I guess, just like I wanted you guys to get an insight to my brain. This is, for some reason, exactly what I said to you guys today, and how I said it was how my brain was going last night. It was going a million miles a minute and in a million different directions. So very interesting. I don't know. It's a lot of interesting stuff. I'm interested to see what these kids are going to feel like within, even like my own kids feeling like, because I don't know what's going to happen with social media in general in the grand scheme of things. And I'm like, when my kids become coherent enough to understand, they're like 9, 10, 11 years old, to really understand what social media is and start to like pick up on it. Like, where am I going to be? What am I going to be doing? And if I'm still doing social media, is that going to be something that affects them? Is that going to be something that they think is weird? Is that going to be something that they're like totally cool with because they're used to it? And it's like, I'm sure there's so many influencers and people creating content nowadays that it might be just one of those things that it's just a sign of the times and they don't think it's weird. But I think it's weird because I didn't grow up like that, So I don't know. Deep into thought on very unnecessary things. You guys, do you feel exhausted? Do you feel exhausted after this episode? Like, that's how my brain is. I'm like, this is where my deep thinking works against me. Cause I'm like, why did I just spend an hour of my energy in my mind on these things? And I'll just talk about it with like my sister and Nash, and I'll just yap their ear off and I cannot shut up about it. And they're just sitting there and they're like, yeah, I mean, definitely. And I'm just going off. I'm having a field day. So, anyways, my gosh, that was it. Okay. That's what I got. Okay. Long story short, to be motivational here, don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to fail. The 3-path analogy, make sure that you're continuing to pour into your own cup, making sure your partner's continuing to pour in their own cup, and you guys are pouring into your shared cup of your amazing, wonderful, beautiful relationship. And yeah, I just don't be afraid to fail. Try it and fail. Better to try to fail than not to try at all. And I know that's a saying we've heard a million times, but it could not be more true. You guys, I will say, I have a successful business now. And I'm very grateful for that. I worked very hard for what I do. There's no doubt about that. Imposter syndrome creeps in all the time for me, but I have worked very hard for where I'm at and have grown my business to an amazing spot. And I'm excited to keep growing. But I can't tell you how many times I have failed on so many different levels of my business with certain decisions that I made, with certain conversations that I had with people, with trusting in certain people, with posting certain things, with like investing in certain things, with like so many different things I've done with my business that I have failed at. But had I not failed at all of those things, whether they were small or big and whether they had an impact or not, I would not be where I'm at today. So you have to fail in order to grow. You have to. And the best way to grow, or the best way to learn, is to fail fast. Period. Okay. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys watched the clips, if you guys watched me on Spotify or YouTube, thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you guys listened, I love you guys so much. And gosh, I guess I'll see you next week.